On top of that, this race has also been described as a referendum between Taiwan and China. When Honduras switched from Taiwan to Beijing in 2023, China unveiled a wave of intoxicating promises, including infrastructure projects, preferential loans, and expanded market access for Honduran exports from shrimp to coffee, which we have just touched upon, portraying itself as a reliable partner capable of delivering faster, bigger, and more transformative results than Taiwan or traditional Western donors. So my question is that, do you think we have seen this reassessment of Chinese influence within Honduras from your observation on the ground?
There has definitely been a reassessment, and I think that there's many things that were promised at the beginning. Like we heard that they were going to get like hundreds, if not thousands, of scholarships, and 3 years later, only in August, like an agreement was signed, and only 27 people got a scholarship. In comparison, Taiwan used to give like around 50 to 60 scholarship for civilian people, plus around 10 to 20 for military personnel. So we definitely lost there. Also, the access to the giant market never really materialized. There was a trade agreement that was promised, and it was negotiated over and over for several months. And it could be that they switched the relationship back to Taiwan, and the trade agreement never was signed all of this time. Also, as I mentioned, the shrimp, they promised that they will give us like access to their giant market to sell more shrimp. And the head of this shrimp farms said that they were ready to produce like around 250 containers, but on 2024, China only bought one. Yes, so that's like a very striking number. And like we were saying before, basically that cost like thousands of losses in jobs. And on top of that, like this is something that Salvador Nasrallah was saying, that basically the price of coffee has dropped like by half, because like, yes, they have access to a giant market, but there's a lot of competition over there. So actually they have to lower the price in order to stay competitive. So they're selling more, but like at lower price. So it's not really, like a win for the coffee producers. So I think that there hasn't been anything that we can like point out and say like, okay, this maybe was better. And there was like the reason why the switch became like, a reality. It was because supposedly China was gonna provide money to build a dam, which was called Patuca 3. But that project, to my knowledge, it hasn't started. So in reality, like I'm not sure exactly what is it that the government was promised. I know like some of the promises that were made publicly, but at least the ones that were made publicly have not materialized.
But interestingly enough, some like minor projects all of a sudden have been reactivated from China during the election year in Honduras, right? Why is that?
Well, basically, the reason I think is because like after the primary elections, probably China had a sense that the Libre Party, which is like the party that, basically made this diplomatic switch, could lose the elections. So what they started doing is like trying to reactivate their embassy. And like, for example, they reactivated like the scholarship program, which they didn't since 2023. They also signed some contracts to buy shrimp that was signed in China, and with the presence of our ambassador, Salvador Moncada. They also invited people from the government, from parliament, with an all-paid trip to China just to visit and get to know like the country. And it was headed by the Libre delegation. And they also made some donations of computers to Congress, which was like heavily publicized it's usually not like that. Like governments donate things to the government of Honduras, and usually they don't go into like the official channels or the social media accounts, but in this case, it was. So I think that it was kind of like a reactive diplomacy. They were trying to make themselves liked or known to the candidates that had like very, very loudly said that they were thinking about a switch, just to try to avoid that switch from happening in case of what is happening right now, that is possibly the victory of an opposition candidate.
So Charles, if Honduras really do want to switch back to Taiwan under the new administration, do you think Taiwan should say yes? Or is it more like an ex, coming back after realizing his partner is not that good?
It's a good question. We always cherish our diplomatic allies if they want to switch back to us. But the one thing very important is Taiwan's diplomatic war or truce with China is different. Okay, we are not paying to the infrastructures. For example, China committed to Honduras, like building the new dam. Okay, and also they are expanding the San Lorenzo port expansion and also the bridge.
Right.
And also, a highway expansion in the southern coast of Honduras. And then once the Honduras people found out it's kind of insalient, it's hard to get to real, then China started to donate more like computers, okay, and say, okay, we'll speed up our white shrimp sale, like 3,000 tons. But like what I say, when you're doing diplomatic truce or diplomatic war, you should not doing like that, because people will realize you are just talking to elite politicians. You're not talking to domestic civilians. Taiwan, when we find out we cannot play this kind of cash game, right now we're doing more kind of people-to-people exchange. We are trying to do more, like, for example, technical support, for example, medical support, and we also try to send our people to our allies to teach them how to improve their agriculture, terrains, and also products. I think this is we call more salient the effects for the diplomacy. So, like what I say, Taiwan, we already realize it's hard for us to play this kind of big game, dollar diplomacy or cash diplomacy with China. So our allies also need to realize that.
But in today's environment, do you think Taiwan still really should value our diplomatic allies, or do you think we should write a new way of doing things or conduct diplomacy?
I think this is very important when you say a country for the territory, population, okay, sovereignty, and government. Diplomacy is one very important element for sovereignty. A country with sovereignty, you need a certain number of allies, which they can help you to speak out in the international society. So no matter our allies number is 20, 15, 14, or now 12, it's still meaning something.
They still get a vote.
Yes, we get a vote. They still can help us speak out in the United Nations. And when we get in trouble, we get in danger, those allies can still help us to promote Taiwan's image in the world. So I think we still need to cherish our allies and also numbers.
The more the merrier.
Yes.
So Fernando, do you think the new president-elect, no matter which of the pro-Taiwan candidates will be finalized, do you think he can really deliver or honor his campaign promise along the campaign trail?
I think that there's like a lot of incentives for him to do that for either of them, because one is because they have publicly said so. Second is because that's what they feel that the United States government wants, and it will look very bad for them if they said something coming back to Taiwan and spoke about it. For example, Salvador did it in Washington, and then they just back off. I don't think that that's something that will look good. And additionally to that, it goes beyond that, because like I said, there has been a lot of financial consequences for our country, economic consequences, and when they say that they were better with Taiwan, they mean it. It's not just some kind of rhetoric to make votes. It's actually something that we have seen in our country, and it's something that they really mean.